Assalamu alaikum. Can the fiqh class be live online for those who can make it? So we have a fiqh class right now that is online, that is on Mondays before Salat al-Maghrib. It starts at about 6:15 at Shafi'i fiqh. And I believe it is online. It should be live, inshallah. Is going to clubs haram, even when I avoid everything haram in it? Yes. So going to any place that is characterized or something that is described as being unique to that haram item, it is haram to go into that space. So for example, a restaurant that sells alcohol, is it okay for me to go to the restaurant? What do you guys think? Yes. Why? Because it's described as when I call it, what do I call it? I call it a restaurant. Like, is it okay for me to go to a bar? No. Why? Because it's described as a bar, right? And meaning that, does a bar sometimes sell food? And I'm sure most of you don't know, alhamdulillah. but bars actually do sell food, right? So if you go to a bar, you can actually order food, but it is not known for the food, it is known for the alcohol. In the restaurant, bil-aks, the opposite of that. The same thing with a brothel, the same thing with a club, right? If it is known and it is characterized for a particular thing that is haram for us as Muslims, then it is also haram to go to that place, right? You know, don't come to me with like, oh, I was giving dawah. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous, right? These are not places that an individual goes to. Like, you don't go to a bar, you don't go to a brothel, you don't go to a club. These are not places you go to for any excuse, and these are places that you should stay away from. The follow-up question or another question might be, is it okay for me to do security at these places, right? So you have a number of security companies that will do security for clubs, they'll do security for bars, they'll do security for these places that we normally see to be haram. You start entering a little bit of a gray area when you do security for these places, but at the end of the day, if I'm a security guard or I'm a security officer, what service am I selling? I'm selling security. Right, so the service that I'm selling is halal, in and of itself. This is why you'll have many scholars who will say it to be permissible. Also, you'll have people, for example, who are taxi drivers. And sometimes the person will be like, take me to the bar, take me to the club, take me to these places that we know to be haram. And there is a bit of a difference of opinion here from the scholars on how this situation should be dealt with. But living in a place where these things are rife and these things are present, again, at the end of the day, what service am I offering? Am I offering alcohol when I'm a taxi driver? No. All right. Am I offering whatever the service is? Am I offering the services at the club to this individual? No. My service is taking a person from point A to point B. This is what I'm selling this person, and this is what I am getting paid for. And if an individual is uncomfortable with any of these things, then they have a choice to leave it, right? They have a choice to leave it. Nobody's forced to be in whatever position they're in. The only advice I would give, and this is advice I give to myself and I give to everyone, before I make a decision, I should always do two things. And I've tried emphasizing on these two things time and again with every decision we make as Muslims. Number one, istishara, and number two, istikhara. Right? I should always seek counsel from people who I'm close with. I should seek counsel with people of knowledge. I should seek counsel from elders. I should seek counsel from family members to help me make the best informed decision. Because quitting a job is not always the best decision. If I'm alone and I'm single and I don't have any responsibilities, go ahead, do what you like. You know, such a person can even go live in a car if they have to. They can find other means. And I'm okay with that. But when an individual has a wife and he has 2 kids or 3 kids and you have all of these other attachments, then you can't make such rash decisions, right? You have to make very informed decisions. You know, when we're young and we're single, we make a lot of mistakes, right? We make a lot of rash decisions. Why? Because the only person who's going to be affected is me. But when I have other people attached to me, then I cannot make such rushed decisions. I have to make sure that I'm bringing my family along with me. Why is masturbation haram? There's a difference of opinion. And Imam Ahmad himself, the way that he presents the issue of masturbation is you have masturbation that's initiated and you have that which is for relief. So if I'm doing it to stimulate, if I'm doing it to stimulate myself, then this is something that he would say to be haram because this is indulgence. And he would say for doing it out of relief, because basically when you have the issue of relief, what is he comparing it against? Either I do this or you fall into zina, right? So these are the two things that he's comparing here. If I'm not in that fear, if I'm not in that state where I'm worried about falling into it, then this is the situation where they say it is haram. And why is it haram? Because of the ease of falling into overindulgence, right? This is why it's haram. And for example, eat apples. Apples are halal or haram? Halal, right? Is it permissible for me to eat 20 apples in one sitting? What do you think? La. Why? Because it's israf, right? This is where I'm entering into overindulgence. And eating that many apples, is it good for me? In one sitting? No, if I eat 20 apples in one sitting, this is bad for me, right? This is something that is extremely unhealthy. And this is the same type of analogy that applies to masturbation. If an individual is falling into this, is there anyone who will know? Is there anyone to stop him? Who is the only person that can control that? The person himself. And when we as humans are put in situations where I am the only person who is limiting it, we tend not to do a good job, right? Like, we usually fail in those situations where I am the only person who is able to stop myself. So what do? You will always have scholars when they deal with this issue. The issue maybe not the action in and of itself, but the fact that it is so easy to fall into overindulgence. The fact that it's so easy to fall into this problem and to keep doing it. And this is why you have a number of scholars who will always err on the side of caution, saying that this is something that needs to be stayed away from. But if, again, the one makhraj or the one situation where some of the scholars do allow it is in this situation of relief. Like I said, Imam Ahmad, there is an indication that this is a position that he took. Ibn Hazm, Al-Zahiri, he took this position very clearly concerning this issue. So this is what the difference of opinion is. This is why many of the scholars have said that it is impermissible because, like I said, it is very easy to fall into excess. Is playing video games with female characters that may not be dressed properly haram to look at? This is a good question. So I'll extend this question not just into female characters in video games, but also movies, TV, animation, right? All of these different things. The first question comes into how we deal with like like for example, a non-Muslim woman, is she obligated to wear hijab? Right? There is a difference of opinion, but in general, I don't think she's obligated to wear hijab. She is obligated, and even in Muslim society and Muslim culture, to dress somewhat modestly. Saying that if a woman is dressed in a way that is provocative, then it is haram for me to look at that woman. So if I go to Walmart, or if I go to Target, or I go to the mall, or I go to school, all of these environments are mixed, right? And I'm dealing with women constantly. Would I say that all of these women are inappropriately dressed? No. In general, I don't. So if there is a video game, or if there is a movie, or if there is a TV show, or if there's a cartoon, and they're dressed in a way that is not provocative, right? That is not provocative, it is not overly exposing, then those things I don't see a problem with. Why? Because at the end of the day, this non-Muslim woman is not supposed to abide by purely Muslim standards. Because even a Muslim woman, there are two major reasons she wears hijab. There are two major reasons for them. Number one, to show her Islam, and number two, to show that she's free. Because the only two people in an Islamic society who don't have to wear hijab are the non-Muslim and the slave. So to show that you're not a slave, and to show that you're Muslim, you would wear a hijab, right? And this is something that is a clear sign of that. But inshallah, I'll come back and I'll touch on this question next week. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin, nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.